Hi everybody, how you doing now? It is Friday, the 14th of February, 2014, and it's in the evening. Oh, it's a full moon. Well, it was 2.5 hours ago. Let's see if we can. Oh, there it is. Hold on. Let's see. Oh, there it is. Can you see it? I should turn that fucking light off. Pardon my language, folks. But that is a full moon over Surrey, British Columbia, Canada. And for you people in the United States, how do I describe Surrey vis-a-vis the city of Vancouver, Canada? I guess you could say that Surrey is Virginia Beach's Newport News. It's Seattle's Federal Way, if you will. There are no exact San Francisco's Oakland, maybe? I don't know. Yeah. Let me put it this way. The Beverly Hills of the Vancouver area is known as Shaughnessy. Surrey would basically be the opposite of Shaughnessy. It's a bedroom community, and from what I know, most people here do not have any post-secondary education. Not that there's anything wrong with it, or it fazes me. But yeah, but I've lived in. I think I've lived in Greater Vancouver. The Metro Vancouver area is known as the Lower Mainland locally. And I think I've lived in almost every Lower Mainland community, with the exception of Port Moody and Coquitlam. No, I've lived in Port Coquitlam, haven't lived in Coquitlam, haven't lived in Pitt Meadows, haven't lived in... Well, Mission's not part of the Lower Mainland, is it? It's part of the Fraser Valley. Right, you are. Suffice it to say, yeah, so anyways, I wanted to tell young people what they may have to expect when they get older. I remember when I was in my 20s, especially late 20s, I didn't have a crisis or anything, but was kind of like sad leaving my 20s forever. And when I turned 30, so it was much easier going from 30 down to 40, by the way. What is it like getting older? What will you be like if you're in your 20s now, what will you be like when you're in your 40s and 50s? Well, I can only give my own experience. And I'd say, of course, I have less energy than I did then. And my memory is not what it used to be. For example, I could watch Jeopardy and I'd have almost instant recall when they'd ask questions and get it just like that. And now, when I know, I can look at someone and not think of his or her name for a few minutes. So this, the memory goes. And what else? If you're a man, the testosterone level goes down, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. I'm as happy now as I was when I was, frisky, and I was happy before when I was a pre-adolescent, I was happy. And so I'm basically have the same level of happiness. Are there any things I would have changed if I could go back and change it again? Yeah, I would not have. I would have tried like hell to maintain stay fit, because my weight gain was over a period of 30 years, and it was very gradual, like maybe 5 pounds a year. So anyways, I would have stayed fit. I would have learned more. In high school, I only learned one foreign language. I could have learned, besides German, I could have learned French, Spanish, Latin, and Russian. I wish I would have learned them all at the same time, because actually several of my colleagues did. I wish I would have taken calculus in high school, and I wish I would have visited Europe for the first time right out of high school until waiting until my late 20s. I wish I would have not only visited Europe, but lived there for a few years to get a better understanding of... I should mention, although I live in Canada since I was 23 years old, I grew up in the United States of America. So, yeah. Why do I speak with an English accent? Well, you know, it's fake. I put on, if you've seen my other vids, I do different accents. But, yeah, I would have loved to lived in Europe when I was young, possibly found a bride. Yeah, because I live in Canada, and right now there's about 33 million people, and of them, you know, just a few 100,000 marriage eligible types, whereas in Europe you have, including Russia, you have almost 1 billion people, and so there's a much larger range of possibilities, isn't there? And yeah, where you have a lot of people close together, you have good infrastructure. Look at Germany, which is basically the size of Montana, and yet they've got a wonderful transportation system. That's because you've got about 82 million some odd people living in a place the size of Montana that is, you know, temperate climate, and I can tell you that the German middle class is much bigger than in, say, Canada or the US, and you have all these people paying their taxes. Well, they've got a lot of money to invest on infrastructure. But what else can I tell the young about growing older? Don't fear growing older, because number one, it is unavoidable. You know, unless one dies, and you know, you don't want to die because you either cease to exist or you might go to hell. You never know. But suffice to say, getting old is better than dying young. I can tell you that much right now. What else would I say? I would say, if you really want to do something, go for it. Don't. It was like I was watching a video earlier today called McConkie Reborn, and it was about this intrepid lad who jumped off a gondola at Whistler, was it? And, you know, for hang glider or whatever they call it, parachute. But he was having the time of his life, so very risky. But I would say to people, do not put off doing what you really want to do. With the caution, you know, don't do something that is wrong. Now, whether wrong is identical with illegal, I'm not sure, but you know what I mean. What else? One thing that was not available when I was young was the internet, and this splendid means of getting information and communication and being and staying in touch. It's just absolutely wonderful. And I know many people say the young take it for granted, but I just can't get over how the technology, it's just absolutely amazing. If people and nations would make as much progress in getting along in worldwide peace and prosperity as we do in our technology, well, I think the world would be a veritable paradise for everyone, wouldn't it? One last thing that I can think of is, to young people, do not forget the spiritual dimension. When you went to college, when you went to university, and you had that professor who Perhaps the professor made you, what he taught you made you doubt your religion or even theism. I would say, do not cut yourself off from the spiritual traditions of your people. Spirituality can be very, very comforting and consoling, the more so as you get older. It's no accident that you see people in church, especially Catholic churches. You may not know that most Catholic churches are open every day for their service, their worship service called the Mass, the Eucharist. And you see lots of old people there. Well, number one, young people are at work earning a living, aren't they? But it's no accident you see lots of old people at church, because, you actually get more and more experience the older you get. And don't worry about getting Alzheimer's, some kind of dementia. It's only about 20% of people by the time they're 90 who have dementia. That means 80% of 90-year-olds still have their marbles, still have their wits about them. And it's just marvelous. I never dreamed that it's something that the youth cannot learn. It's something that only time and experience can bring you. And many young people say that, I don't want to be around when I'm 60. But that's really not true in most of the cases. 60 rolls around before you know it. And why does time go so fast? Well, look at it. We spend almost half of our time in sleeping. And that means we're unconscious. So when you hit 30 years old, it means you've only got a little over half of that time in conscious experience. So that's why time seems to go by much faster than it actually does. I've talked to many young people. Another thing, if you smoke, stop. If you don't start. And I'm talking about marijuana too. The fact of the matter is, breathing in any smoke is carcinogenic. And, you just don't want to. Do a number on your body like that. By the time you're in your 60s, the average person dies if he has, quote unquote, lived life in the fast lane, boozing and taking recreational drugs and stuff, because your body is just not built for that sort of thing. And what else? Prepare to get yourself ready psychologically and otherwise to be old, because if you're the average Westerner, you're going to be old for a long time, much longer than you were young. Let's say youth ends when you're 30 years old, and middle age ends when you're 50 or 60. Well, the average person in the West will live to be someplace in their 80s if they're non-smokers. And so prepare yourself psychologically for getting old. Gracefully surrender your powers as you get older, and your strengths diminish, physical strength, intellectual strengths. Gracefully and graciously surrender when Mother Nature and time, Father Time, come calling, because it's going to happen. So what would I do? I would travel a lot more than I did. I would, I did have my own business for a long time, and I was in it to make money more than anything else. But I would say, follow your heart above anything else, because, find what makes you happy, and then find a way to make money from it. And And there are some happy people out there, some people who are very satisfied, who are lucky in love, lucky in business. They won the DNA genetics lottery, and but that's just part of it. The rest is hard work. So I'm not going to tell you to stay in school, because as a young man I was just bursting to get out. It's all I could do to stay in high school. And I only stayed at university for a year because I just couldn't wait to get out into the world and enjoy my freedom. So I do not regret leaving school. On the other hand, if you do enjoy university, more power to you. I myself prefer learning by myself. But if you like the classroom situation and you want to get the degrees, BS, MS, PhD, and whatever it is your heart's desire, do not forget. And if you don't know it now, I will tell you, there's nothing like getting an adequate amount of solitude, time to yourself. I highly recommend camping. Of course, this is only for men folk. I don't think women would last long in the bush. I'm talking about the Canadian wilderness, where there's grizzly bears, black bears, cougars, mountain lions, wolves, coyotes, and God knows what else. So, I guess I will be old-fashioned enough to that extent. There's some things men can do that women just can't do well on a whole, and I would not recommend women to go into the woods. But if you're a man, there's nothing like the solitude in the wilderness. If you can rent a cabin in the Yukon in the winter, I wouldn't do it in the summer. The mosquitoes are just absolutely unbelievable. But in the winter, there's nothing like a frozen, I was going to say countryside, but if it's the wilderness, you really can't call it that. Suffice to say, life is precious and valuable. And it becomes even more precious and more valuable the older you get, because you have less time left. And lastly, I must come out of the closet as a believing Roman Catholic. But whatever your spirituality is, the reason why I mention that is because I do not look to death as the end. Death means to me only the death of the body, while everything that is I, minus the body, will go to heaven to be with God. Death to me is but a door to another dimension of existence that we can scarcely even imagine. So, there you have it. So young folks, enjoy your lives and don't be afraid and don't be apprehensive or pessimistic about getting older. I would say that if you're starting to put on weight, get on a diet and a calorie limiting and exercise regimen, and get back to your ideal weight, and get lots of exercise, drink lots of water. Oh yes, very important. Cut out caffeine entirely. Read the book Caffeine Blues, written by Dr. Stephen Chiniski. Believe me, caffeine is a culprit. Now, I'm addicted to this here, but I'm not blaming it, I'm blaming me. But folks, stay off of artificial stimulants. No caffeine, no nicotine, and and another thing. Spend some time helping others that are less fortunate than you, especially the elderly. You can learn something from us. And I guess that's it. Ad majorem Dei gloriam.